I don't want to elaborate on this too long because I tend to get too long on some of these videos, but this is probably the biggest danger to freedom in this country. And it's about the connection between prison system, corporations, and government. Prisons for profit. Prisons for profit. Now, in the United States, we probably have one of the highest or the highest incarceration rate in the world. And you think that's because we have criminals? Well, not necessarily. A lot of it is over very minor drug offenses. I was talking about industrial hemp and medicinal marijuana. There's been many cases where people have grown marijuana strictly for medical purposes, and it has been proven to heal cancer. It has been proven. And you could say it hasn't been proven, but, there's many cases where the results are there. So I don't know what kind of evidence you need to prove that. In a court of law, you would think that proves that it cures cancer. Well, there's a lot of people in prison for that. Not everybody in prison is for obviously reasons of growing medicinal marijuana oil, but for the most part, it's over very small things that are drug-related offenses. Now, I'm a person that doesn't take any drugs or don't take any prescription medications either, which I consider them to be drug offenses pushed by drug dealers, psychiatrists and doctors pushing meds that are actually a lot more harmful than plain old marijuana, which is something I don't smoke, but still, I have to agree with that theory that it's not a theory that a little bit of marijuana smoke is a hell of a lot less harmful for you than a lot of and probably not harmful for you at all, than pharmaceutical drugs or these psychiatric concoctions that these people prescribe to people. But that's the type of stuff you can get in prison for, So, and that's where the majority of, the incarcerated are in prison for minor related drug offenses. And the United States has probably the highest in the country and the highest in the world in incarceration rates. Now, this is the Rin beef, and this is really what the deal is. This is actually from the website, and I'll just show you from the PDF. It's Unicor, Federal Prisons Industry, and it's called by a couple different things, Federal Prison Industry, but it basically, they say their mission is keeping inmates constructively occupied, produce market-priced quality goods and services for sale to the federal government. So the federal government gets a nice break by using a bunch of free labor. And this is the part that aggravates me because, you can find, I don't know if, I'm not a liberal and I'm not a conservative. And I definitely used to be more conservative, but I could see their conservatives can be some serious lunkheads sometimes too. Because a lot of people saying, well, they did something bad, they should be given back to society. But in a lot of cases, I don't know what the hell these people did is that bad. Because they're not going to have the worst criminals on here that committed murder and stuff like that, producing uniforms for the military. It's going to be the more minor stuff, So basically, there is a major impetus to keep this, I'll call it a racket. You know what I really call this? I call this slavery in the United States. It's under a different form. And, here's it right from the website, the Federal Prison Industries, first and foremost, is a correctional program. The whole impetus behind FPI is not about business, but instead about inmate release preparation. Well, it is about business, and I'm going to show you how it is. I'll get right to that right now, actually. Corrections Corporation of America, basically the same thing, has reached out to 48 states as part of a $250 million plan to own existing prisons and manage their own operations. But in return, Corrections Corporation of America wants a 20-year contract and assurances that the state will keep the prisons at least 90% full. So there you go. And like what most of those prisons are full with is basically weed smokers, Crazy, crazy stuff. And, just to give you some of the things, like, I'm very critical of Iran and the religious kooks that run it. But here you got a place like Louisiana. Louisiana has triple the incarceration rate of Iran. So, I don't know if it's Louisiana specific. It's probably a lot of places in the United States. And this is one of my beefs with some of these conservatives because in a lot of cases they're very mean people. You know, I don't smoke weed at all. Never have smoked weed. You know, I'm an advocate for medicinal marijuana and also industrial hemp. And I don't really care if people smoke some weed. I mean, you can take anything to excess. I mean, if I wanted to go get some kind of buzz, I guess you can do that with glue, right? I mean, really. I mean, it's all what a person wants to do. I mean, there's ways to just get high, and if a person does that, they abuse their body. There's nothing you could do about it, and I don't think the state should get involved in that either. But, it's like I realized that, this whole thing is basically our prisons are being run like businesses. And the biggest business out there is the military industrial complex. And what you have here is a major connection between, and you look at the organizations that it serves, it's not just the U.S. military, it's the Department of Homeland Security, the General Service Administration, the prison system itself, the Social Security Administration, Department of Justice, Postal Service, Department of Transportation. It goes on and on. It's basically putting Americans in prison, and for the most part, it's over very minor stuff. A lot of it's over, drug offenses, and we do know where these why they came about. It's because of the oil industry, the medical industry, two of the biggest poisoners on earth. Things that we can grow that will alleviate problems with pollution on earth. The oil industry is about pollution, but the oil industry has competition from a plant called hemp, and a lot of the people that are in prison are in prison due to weed and hemp, things like that. So a lot of times it's over the biggest bunch of bullshit going. So, but there is a revolving door between the prison system and the industry itself and what it's going to do for the federal government itself. So, I don't know if that's what you call a rigid Illuminati plan, but, that's just kind of how it's all working out. I wouldn't really call it like a rigid conspiracy, but when money and profit are involved, and you can tell that there's definitely an impetus to keep the prisons full because you got a labor force. Which feeds the military-industrial complex, right? And that's what General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower warned us about. You could see there's going to be a lot more of this injustice continuing to grow. So I just want to point this out briefly because, I don't think anybody else really is. If you look all across YouTube, I don't know, maybe there's something out there, but for the most part, they don't. They're a little too worried about, what's going on in here, and it's, all these different things, black helicopters and stuff. It's really right out here in front of us. And, I think people, especially conservative people that don't, like I said, I don't smoke any weed. I realize medicinal marijuana oil is very good for people. I realize that industrial hemp is very good for people. I also realize that people smoke some weed. That don't hurt them. It probably helps them if they just don't do it too much. So I don't do it. But this is the kind of stuff that people are getting thrown in jail for, to be used as slave labor. So, talk about black helicopters. Alex Jones, he could talk about black helicopters in the sky all he wants, and what the Illuminati are doing. What I see going on here, it's like you got some real lunkheads, and and I'm talking about the middle class, because the middle class ought to be fighting for these people. They should be fighting for these people, and they should be getting rid of this gulag, Gestapo slave camp bullshit that's going on in the United States, because there's absolutely no reason the incarceration rate in the United States should be so high. There's something wrong here. And you know what the wrong thing is showing up? Is that there's basically a major link between prison industries and our government and our military industrial complex. So don't worry about the black helicopters. Get down real and look at specifics. And I know sometimes these real religious right-wing people say, well, they did something wrong. Yeah, you know what? You know, it's like, if you breathe and you look the wrong way, you did something wrong. It's all a matter of who you know and how and you've seen this so many times. People could do some of the worst things in the world. If they got the money, they don't nothing happens to them for the most part. That's usually what happens, and people notice. So, but I say the whole thing is, it's a slave labor camp. It's Auschwitz going on in the United States, basically. Basically. Basically, that's all that crap is. And if you believe in justice, you need to fight this and not fight, every little stupid thing that Alex Jones talks about. Because he don't talk about this, I know it.